4, 3.
Hey everybody, and welcome to our latest Skewedcast at Skewed and Reviewed. I'm Gareth, creator of Skewed and Reviewed. I'm joined as always with Justin and Michael, and we have a lot of stuff for you today. You can catch us online at sknr.net, and you can also catch us at canalcentral.com, which is our syndicated articles for the 8 newspapers in the area. You can catch me each week on BJJ's Geek Nation on KISW.com. We put that on the site. Usually those go up Friday. Our segment's actually going to go up tomorrow because we recorded it a little later than usual. But I can tell you we have Mortal Kombat 11, Days Gone, PlayStation 5, and some other special stuff on the show this week. So you can definitely look forward to that. I should have that up tomorrow morning. And so the final thing, of course, is Skewed and Reviewed, the magazine, and I can tell you right now that we're going to have Borderlands 3 and Jedi Fallen Order on the cover of our next issue, which will be out in June, just after our coverage of E3, and Michael and I will be on hand covering that. So we'll be, of course, talking about that as we get closer to the show. We have Mark covering, as we're recording this right now, he's at the Level Up Expo in Las Vegas. And the great thing about that, it's a new show. We kind of thought it might be similar to the GameStop Expo, which got stopped as they reorganized things. But actually, it's an interesting mix of pop culture, anime, cosplay, traditional gaming, retro gaming. I mean, there was everything from a mobile axe-throwing booth to a giant stand-up battleship, kind of like those stand-up chessboards where you actually physically move your things around on the play grid. There was some retro gaming and stuff like that. We have pictures up if you're interested in that. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention starting off, I'm not opening this yet, but we'll give you the picture of it, and we're saving this for a debut and at our Phoenix Fan Fusion. This is Eagle Eyes. This is a brand new set of glasses. This is called the Charlie NL, and basically these folks make some fantastic and very affordable, high-quality glasses that you use for things such as working on your computers, looking at the monitors so you don't get the screen glare. Now, this Charlie NL brand runs about $69, and it's very sleek and stylish look. We have pictures going up on the site as well. The advantage to this new release is that these are designed for night vision glasses. So, for example, if you are at a theme park, if you were at a concert, if you were at a place that has a lot of artificial light, if you're driving, nightclubs, things like that, where the light's a little too bright for you, but obviously it's not something you would want standard sunglasses or your prescription glasses, like prescription sunglasses or anything like that, and you want to be able to see well without it being too dark, but you also don't want the glare from all the lights, this would be the thing for you. Or if you're doing long sessions on your computer, gaming, working, school, anything like that on the computers, you don't want the eye strain, but you don't want to wear traditional sunglasses or traditional glasses or gaming glasses that tend to have a tint. This is one that you would definitely want to check out, and it's available from Eagle Eyes. Another product that I wanted to mention was a new one from Coolermaster, and I know, Michael, you definitely went through a lot of stuff with your recent upgrade to your water cooler system. This is the brand new Q500L, and we're also going to be showing this off at our booth at Phoenix Fan Fusion, and I'm in the process of doing a review for it. Now, one of the great things about this is, number one, I'm going to start off by telling you the price. You can go to places like Newegg and Amazon.com, $59.99, which is quite reasonable for a case. Now, one of the great things is it has an orientation and movable I/O panel. So basically, you can orient vertically as well as horizontally with using rubberized thumb screws that also act as feet to help the sliding and to help keep your system in place. You can also move the I/O panel to multiple positions to make sure you have maximum accessibility. A really nice innovation is that it's got a versatile PSU bracket. So basically, this allows you to adjust the clearance level on your settings inside. So basically, if you have a motherboard or you have a device that you're plugging in that needs more space, this is definitely one that you would like because the bracket can shift up or down for top radiator graphic card clearances, things like that, can also be relocated. When we put in our latest GeForce 2070 RTX card from EVGA, it basically fit just barely, and it wasn't because we didn't have a decent sized case. It was a simple matter of that you had the hard drives here, you had the power cords and the ribbons coming off them, and they're all right here in the spot that you had to go. So you had to kind of move them out of the way like this, line the card up exactly like that, pop it in, and then slide the cards around it, put in the power slots. It would have been nice to have about this much more space to move around and stuff like that. And while I could have done that, it would have meant moving a few things out and taking this drive out and putting it in, putting it back. And while I got it in there and it was just fine, it worked. It did take a little bit of work. And so it is interesting, maybe about 2 to 5 minutes longer than it otherwise would have. This is really nice to have the option just to have that extra space slidable and go from there. The final thing is fully perforated chassis. So for those people who live in warmer climates like we do, the top, front, rear, and bottom panels are fully perforated. So that means you can set up various fan configurations. You get a really good airflow throughout the thing. And of course, it also has magnetic dust filters, which are really cool, that you could just clank right over the perforations to keep the dust out. So if you decide for whatever reason, not so concerned about dust, I want better airflow, just pull off the magnetic thing. So like I said, $59.99. It is available from Coolermaster. You can get it at Newegg and Amazon, and it definitely is very impressive. It's very sleek looking, and it will allow you to, do all of your expansions. Get the 7 expansion slots it's got in it. So definitely a lot of options in there. So check that out. That is the Coolermaster Q500 and Q500L. So you want to check that out. Okay, so Justin, we had some Alien Day news starring one of the favorites of the Alien franchise. What can you tell us about what's going on?
Yeah, so this comes on the heels of the comic series based on the infamous William Gibson script for Alien 3 that never got made, but probably would have been the best of the unmade scripts of the film. Dark Horse has taken a stab at adapting that script in comic form. I have yet to read it. I read the first issue and enjoyed it quite a bit, but I need to get around to actually finishing reading that. I have read the script before, and it's definitely worth a read. But anyway, so the news is that Michael Biehn, obviously, for those who don't know, he is the actor for Corporal Hicks from Aliens. It has been announced that he will be taking part in a audio drama for of an audio adaptation of the script, which should be really cool. It's not like a film a remake of the script or anything like that. But for those who are diehard Aliens fans, it's definitely something to check out because he's obviously an absolutely excellent actor, and the script had a ton of potential and would have likely been the best version of Alien 3 should it have been made.
Yeah, and there was also some talk about an Alien RPG game coming. What can you tell us about that?
Are you talking about the role-playing tabletop game?
Correct.
Yeah, so a company called Free League Publishing is creating a tabletop role-playing game based in the Alien universe, and definitely something I'm interested in. I've never in the past been super into tabletop role-playing like Dungeons and Dragons and everything like that, but I more recently some of my friends have gotten into that, and I, being such a huge fan of the Alien universe and everything, this is definitely something up my alley, and would be really interested in checking it out. It looks like it has like a lot of. I went through the site the other day, and it does look like it has a fair bit of production value, some great art, and it looks like they put a lot of thought into its systems and the way it all plays. So I'm definitely interested myself. If you are a fan of the Alien universe and fan of tabletop role playing, this is definitely something to check out.
Were you disappointed that we did not get more information on the coming Alien shooter game?
I suppose so, but I think like we talked about previously, I didn't really expect a whole lot coming out of this Alien Day, largely because of the Disney and Fox buyout. Has largely put a lot of Fox projects up in the air. I didn't really expect there to be a lot of organization regarding Alien Day this year. That definitely was the case. They've assured us that the shooter is still in development, and we can only guess as to what stage it is. But supposedly they've been working on it for some time, and it's coming along nicely. My guess is that we might see it at E3. That would be definitely really cool. Alien Day would have been a good opportunity for them to show it, but I think there wasn't a whole lot of organization about the Alien Day event. I think they kind of just threw everything at the wall that they had, which was mostly merchandise-based things, and that stuff is cool for Alien fans. But I don't think they had anything planned for like big announcements or anything. So I guess we'll just have to wait till E3 to see if they're ready to show this Alien shooter in its full.
Okay. And Michael, did you have anything that you wanted to chime in about Alien Day before I closed off on the subject?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the role-playing game aspect of it as well. I know they've had some excellent tabletop versions. There was an excellent game that came out, oh boy, back in the early '90s, which was kind of featured aliens, the movie, but it featured a lot of the Space Marines engaging with the aliens, and that was at a purely tactical board game type thing. From a role-playing game perspective, I'm really excited about that. As much as I used to love to play Dungeons and Dragons, I don't have much of a chance to do that these days, but I still like to have I still buy them all. I still am interested in them, and I can certainly see myself being interested in the Alien role-playing game as well. Again, from the production value, good production value, those kind of things always had some interesting lore. And what if it's like the Dungeons and Dragons stuff in particular, that we may get to see them going back and getting some unseen things from the franchise, either comics that never really made it anywhere. Sometimes they even get stuff like old scripts where they pull some of their ideas from. So if it's a licensed version of the game, I think we might get to see some really interesting stuff from there. So I'm pretty excited about the idea of that coming out and kind of seeing where that takes us.
Yeah, one of the things I was excited about was that there were some books announced. Now, we knew about the 40 years of Alien and all that, but there were a couple of books coming from Titan. One of them was a novelization of Alien Isolation, which I found really interesting because I don't recall any of the other video games ever having a novelization or even a spin-off novelization. And then when you combine it with the fact that we had the short series on IGN, you have this novelization now, good couple of years after the game's already been out, well past the time of a sequel. It seems interesting to me that all of a sudden we're getting all this Alien Isolation stuff. We had Alien Blackout, which featured, in a way, a follow-up storyline to it. Then we had the animated thing on, and now we have a novel. It seems to me like perhaps they're not quite ready to drop this storyline as fast as we thought. And then we're also getting a brand new original, I believe it's called Prototype. We're getting a new original Alien story in October. So, they're still cranking out the extended universe. So hopefully we're going to get some more details at Comic-Con. I think in San Diego, you will be amazed at the amount of Alien merchandise you're going to see from, just Sideshow Collectibles, Nico, all of them. They're going to have just tons of stuff out there. And, right before Covenant, of course, we had a ton of stuff as we expected. Some years, not as much. But I am very, very, very curious to see what comes, because it seems to me like they are still very much keeping things in the mix in terms of the Alien Isolation and, see what's to come. God, wouldn't it be funny if this massive online shooter was an Alien Isolation sequel? Yeah. But they keep saying it's a new and original story.
Right.
So we shall see. We shall see. So let's move on and let's talk about the news. Michael, why don't you tell us about what's happening with James Bond, because we had a little bit of news from the James Bond 25 announcement this week.
Yeah, so not a lot of news, but James Bond 25, we did get to see kind of a little bit of the premise of the story. Bond is retired. Yeah, I think we'd seen that kind of coming with some of the previous movies. But much like anybody else who retires from being a super spy, is they don't stay retired for long. And he's enjoying a tranquil life in Jamaica, and one of his friends, Felix Leiter, comes from the CIA, turns up, and they ask him for some help to rescue a kidnapped scientist. And as in genuine James Bond flair, nothing's going to turn out to be quite as easy as it sounds. And it turns out that it turns it into a dangerous activity of trying to track down this treacherous villain, who I believe was announced that Rami Malek is going to be the new evil genius for the James Bond movie this time. So hot off the heels of his Bohemian Rhapsody win, we're going to get to see some more of him as a Bond villain. And I think he has that kind of unique look and that kind of interesting flair to himself. I saw that he was interviewed about this a couple days ago, and he kind of talked, they asked him what's he going to bring to it, and his idea is he wants to bring a complex villain, not the standard. He's evil for the purpose of being evil, but kind of make him unique and have a little bit more depth than a lot of the traditional Bond villains in the past. So yeah, it sounds like it'll be pretty intriguing. I know the last several have been really good, so definitely looking forward to this one as well.
Yeah, and especially since this is Daniel Craig's swan song to the role, barring a change of heart, which he apparently is going to have, because they've backed up truckloads of money to him. I heard it got up to the range of $40 million a film, and he was still like, nope. So, Justin, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I wasn't super crazy about Spectre, the previous one, but the one before that, Skyfall, I thought was absolutely excellent. I loved that movie quite a bit. And I think it's definitely interesting. We're in an interesting time, because I think we're now at the point where they have adapted every novel of the Ian Fleming original novels.
Long past it.
And so, I think a lot of these original stories are, it allows them to be a little bit creative. And I'm definitely interested in the premise. I think it does sound pretty interesting. And as you said, Daniel Craig has kind of gone back and forth on being done, several times now. So who knows if this is going to be his actual last one, but it does seem like, given how long it is between these movies, I definitely think it could be the last one for him. I'm interested in the directing choice. Cary Joji Fukunaga, he's directing this movie, and for those who don't know, he was probably best known for directing quite a bit of True Detective, the first season, which is a series, an HBO series I absolutely love. He's definitely a very interesting filmmaker, so I'm curious to see what his take will be in directing James Bond. So we'll have to kind of see how it goes. The casting choices are all great, so yeah, I'm just interested to see some more.
Well, following up some of our other stories, Justin and Michael, we have a very unique little piece of data that came out today. We've done a lot of talk about the pending Disney Plus service that is coming in November. We've talked about The Mandalorian, the Cassian Andor, the Marvel series, the Disney stuff. We had news recently that they will not include Song of the South. They're going to go in and digitally redact a racially sensitive scene in the original Dumbo. But a recent survey was done by a data analysis firm, and they said that especially with Netflix's recent rate increase, as many as 14% of the current U.S. Netflix users are considering canceling Netflix and just having Disney Plus as their main streaming service. Now, of course, others have said, similar to what we're probably going to do, is that they're going to keep Netflix. Possibly, it doesn't ask about Amazon, but obviously we'd keep that and have Netflix. There's talk that Disney has approached the owners of basically buying out the remaining 30% of Hulu, so they would have 100% control over the streaming service. So why don't we start with Michael? Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. We have Netflix. We'll keep it regardless of the rate hike. We have Hulu. Obviously, we're gonna get the Disney streaming. We have Amazon. So I certainly can see it. I think what we were kind of hoping. I was hoping would happen was when Disney released their projected cost, which I think we've all agreed on this, at least on this channel, that it's a relatively inexpensive. I think $6.99 a month or $69 a year, relatively inexpensive way to enjoy the Disney movies, enjoy the television series. You get the Fox television series with like The Simpsons, that sort of thing, and the new series. Obviously, I was kind of hoping that would kind of put some pressure on Netflix to potentially not go this route. I think Netflix is in a position where they've had several key hit shows. We know that they're still one of the premier streaming movie services around, outside of going premium channels like HBO, Showtime, that sort of thing. So I think they're kind of at a point where they're going to test the waters and see how much they can get away with raising the cost to see what kind of impact it is. Now, I know that we've heard that as many as potentially 14% of users have, based on this analysis and the polling that they did, we're considering ditching Netflix, and whether they go with Disney Plus as an alternative, or whether they go with Hulu, or they go with some other alternative. If we see that kind of trend occur, Netflix might have to really second guess some of their choices. But I think right now they're still they still provide a lot of really good specialized programming. Obviously, the movie choices have gotten better over the years, from their streaming perspective, at least. So I think they're in a position where they think they're at a point where they can kind of charge what they want, and people will stick with it. So I think if we see this come to fruition, where they do see a fairly significant drop of their subscriber base, either because of the new Disney service or ditching them because of the cost and going someplace else, that we might see them have to rethink and readjust that. We kind of thought, or at least I kind of thought, that with a lot more streaming services available, a lot more people who are cutting the cord and going with non-cable providers, that we would see cable prices kind of, at least I wouldn't say decline, but we would at least see their raises kind of be impacted and maybe slow some of that increase. I don't think that's happened yet. So I think it's going to take some really serious competition, and maybe Disney is that competition, to really kind of stop not only the increases, but maybe make them rethink their strategies. And if they can't come up with sufficient content to keep subscribers happy at the rates, so that we may actually start seeing some of these prices go down. So yeah, I think it's going to take a little while to see where this goes. I would like to think that enough competition and enough lower rates from other competitors would drive costs down, not up. But until I think we get there, maybe Netflix is hoping to get this in before Disney Plus takes hold. And maybe they're at a position where they think they can get another 14% for another year or two or three, and then they can reevaluate where they're at. But maybe they're looking at just enough to kind of get their profit margin increase that much until Disney and potentially other streaming services, whether that be CBS or we see Hulu. I think if we see a Hulu Disney merger, that's going to put a lot more pressure on Netflix. I think at that point we might see some of this drop off, but I think it's still a couple of years out before we start to see, hopefully, a decrease in the costs and maybe some of these prices going down.
And Justin, your take on this, please.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that Netflix has a major problem here, and they've had a problem for a few years, because I think they took for granted how powerful they were in this space of streaming services, because they were the number one. I think they still are the number one. Yeah. But they were so dominant in this space for so long that pretty much everybody who wanted to put their content on a streaming service, they put it on Netflix. And over time, as competitors popped up, Amazon and Hulu, I think a lot of the organizations that own this content started to pull from Netflix. And I think Netflix didn't really have a contingency plan for that. They've had a bunch of original content on their service, and they've kind of built that up over time, but I don't think they did it quick enough. So now, as content's being pulled and people are leaving their service and going to other services, I think they're raising their prices to compensate for it. And I also believe they're probably also raising their prices to try to invest in some higher quality original content. I like Michael. I will also continue to subscribe to Netflix. I haven't had normal cable for years now, and so the price differences between 10 and 13 and $14, not huge for me. So I'm good with it. But I will say that I have been overall mostly disappointed in Netflix's content and their content offerings over the past couple years. I'm willing to give them a chance, and I do understand that they're probably likely investing quite a bit in their original content, and that will probably end up making higher quality content in the future. But we'll have to kind of wait and see. I do think they have a pretty big problem on their hands, especially with Disney coming in at such a low price point that's going to attract quite a few people. So I think the next couple years will probably determine how Netflix does for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems that Netflix is facing right now is that for the longest time they got basically held up because companies, when Netflix started becoming more and more streaming first versus mailing you a DVD, it became, okay, you want our content and now you're going to have to pay for it. And that's where you start hearing these stories like it was $100 million to get the rights to stream Friends, apparently. That's one number that had been floated out there, and that all these people are coming forward saying, well, if you want our content, it's going to cost you this. Because, it used to be Netflix could play the game of, well, if you don't want to stream it on us, where are you going to go with it? And now they could say, well, we're going on Amazon. And if you look at Amazon, they are starting to get, while Netflix is still the premier place, there are several movies streaming for free on Amazon now, such as A Quiet Place and other things, that there are things that you look on there and go, wow, that's on here already. I didn't know that would be available. And, then they're investing heavily in original content because they're going to have the new season of Expanse. We're about to start seeing some interesting things with Netflix. We're going to get the final season of Orange is the New Black, but we're also going to see some of the new shows they saved, like Lucifer, like Designated Survivor, making their debut with the new content on Netflix. So we'll see how that, goes for them going forward. They've also been investing billions in new content. We're going to get a new season of Altered Carbon. We're getting a new season of Lost in Space. They recently announced they're canceling Santa Clarita Diet. A lot of people say, if you look at these Netflix shows, they normally don't go beyond 3 seasons. And I'm like, right, didn't Orange is the New Black just go 7? So I read recently that they are taking out, I want to say, another $2 billion for investment in their original content. And some industry analysts say that's why you're seeing the increase right now, because it's kind of the numbers game of, we know we're going to lose some people, so we have to offset those that stay, and we're going to do that by offering content for those that want to continue to watch the shows, and for people like Justin who say, well, since I'm not paying for cable, what's an extra couple of dollars? But there are some industry analysts saying, right, they've invested all these billions of dollars, but some of this money is going to come due in the next couple of years. And so all of a sudden, here you are, Netflix, you have the choice of, we have original content. Well, now we're hearing Universal wants to do their own streaming service. Warner Brothers wants to do their own streaming service. So basically, here's Netflix. Well, we can't go near Disney or Fox without paying a pretty huge dollar because they're streaming. If Warner's has got their own, if Universal has got their own, basically they're left with Paramount and Lionsgate, independent studios, and their own original content. So it's basically probably going to be what they end up doing. And I think they're very savvy to this. So they're basically saying, look, outside of TV, our future could definitely be 100% original content, foreign shows, and maybe some older stuff where we can negotiate a favorable deal on, because the studios are going to just start doing their own content. Now, the only reason this will change is if somebody starts going under and they're able to come in and either, pick them up. But it's very interesting because, I equate this to back in the day. I remember when we were in Washington, there was this lady that owned the local video store. And she, made the transition from video to DVD like a lot of places did. And one day we went in and she announced that she was closing up the shop. And it kind of surprised us because she'd always had a very successful business. She was very thriving. And she said, the reason I'm doing it isn't because the business isn't making money. It's because the owners want me to sign a 10-year lease on the building for the business. And she said, I wasn't willing to do that because I did not know where the video market is going to be in 10 years. And my first thought was, well, we were talking about it. I said, the format could change. I mean, obviously it's changed from, VHS to DVD to Blu-rays were starting to make their debut. And I said, I always think there'll be some kind of market for a pre-recorded video, which was true. We just never expected the delivery system to change to being 100% all digital, because back then it was still the age of dial-up where it took a good hour just to download a movie trailer. And it just goes to show you how fast things changed. I mean, did any of these people that were investing in these Blockbuster stores that were opening on every corner ever think there'd be a day where people were not renting some kind of movie? No, they didn't. They figured, formats change. And I think that's kind of where we're at. I think Netflix is there going, okay, digital distribution seems to be the wave of the future, but now everybody's getting into it. And that's going to limit our options. So basically, it's like nobody wants to play ball anymore. We're all going to control our own product. We're all going to control our own means of distribution, and we're not going to play nice with the others to see if we can force them out. So will be very, very interesting to see what happens down the road with that. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for today. We covered a lot of ground as always. We'll be back next week with a brand new show. And until then, folks, please take care. Have a very safe week. And we look forward to talking to you again next week.